I think I've talked about Weeds, the TV show, but I used to watch that show with Mary Louise um, Parker. Um, it was a trip out show. I think I may have done a video. I'm gonna do it again, even if I didn't, because just thinking about the significance of a widow who's trying to take care of her family in a suburban household, and she takes on the fine artwork of selling weed. And the funny thing about it is that it was like a novel concept at the time because it wasn't really like something that was. Nowadays you can do it. Nowadays everybody's got a dispensary. Even Snoop Dogg is selling it legally. I mean, that's how a lot of people are making money. But at that time, to imagine that you were doing it under the table at that time to doing it for a TV show, and the show was on for about 8 years. Um, like most of those shows, though, by season three, it got watered down, it got corny, and then by the time everybody else was on it, people started to feel it. That's when it waters down. You ever be in a situation where you too cool for school, like you like something musically or movie or TV shows, and when you bopping it, it's cutting edge and you like it. Then when everybody in the household is in it, it starts to water down, and that's what they did with this show. They actually took the stem and the leaf and the smoke out of it and it watered it down. But when it was in its peak and its prime for 2 or 3 years, it was compelling TV, especially when her character had to go to the hood and get down with folk to move the product. That's what made it interesting. And of course, it was who guess who's coming to dinner, guess who's coming to the hood. It took on a whole lot of different connotations. But Weeds was a really cool show. But nowadays, like I said before, it's funny when you watch this show and then you think about, I want to say in the last 10 years, I was watching an episode of 60 Minutes one night, and there was a librarian who had a house on the hill, white picket fence, and the librarian is selling weed, but she's doing it legally. And it's funny when they making those legalized cannabis runs, but it wasn't always the case. Actually, I did have a buddy that I knew who was a former bus driver who was able to do it and to get in the business for it because it became legalized. But it was funny, like to see this show of how much risk was taken and how many people were in on it. And it is crazy when you have big old pots and you have big old fumes and stuff, and it is really compelling. But it is really, um, a compelling. It was a compelling show for its time, and you know, um, it's one of those things that um a lot of it, like when people art imitates life and what have you, you see things and it's like, would you do that? And what's a quick way to make money? That was a quick way to make money. It really was at that time, you know. And it was a trip out show, it touched